But then I got offered to work at a bakery. It was a very high-end bakery. She moved on to a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant in Chicago or
Whoa.
something like that. Yeah.
Okay.
Which is like the highest she's like Gordon Ramsay level like baker. I was fired within a month. I was
Oh my
so bad at
gosh.
it. I cost that poor lady so much money in my mistakes.
Hi guys, and thank you for joining me on the second episode of the podcast. So today's guest is a friend of mine that I met in high school. He was in my science class in freshman year in my PE class, and this gentleman, I thought he was very strange and a very odd guy. He was, very into Jesus, very up in arms type person, very active, and then he was also on Adderall at the time. Because it was prescribed to him because he was a very hyperactive kid. But something that me and him shared was our love for music, and that kind of helped start the bond. And I found him very intriguing. But like I was saying, something we did share was music, and he was definitely one of my first big influences when it came to music. Like he introduced me to bands like Rush, yes, a lot of progressive rock bands. He showed me jazz. He showed me all kinds of stuff, and it kind of helped broaden my horizon. So I'm very grateful for him for that because, growing up in Bakersfield, where it's a small town, small community, most people are just playing the standard, Ozzy Osbourne, standard rock stuff. So to have someone show you the deep cuts and really help improve your musicality with your technique is a big plus. So, I've always been very grateful for that. But as the years have gone on, he's definitely become a more mature and wiser person and has his own music school, which we'll talk about and stuff like that. But that's why, like, the opening song for this podcast episode is Free Will by Rush, because he helped show me that. And I just got my MIDI controller, so I tried to program the drums and stuff. So if it's a little off, sorry. But without further ado, here's the podcast with my friend David Garcia. Enjoy. Hello and welcome to another episode of the DP podcast. I'm here today with a friend of mine from high school. He's a fellow musician, local Bakersfield musician that has worked with multiple local bands and recently opened his own music store. His name's David Garcia.
Hello.
What's up, David? So, something I wanted to start off talking with you about was just your musical journey and how you started. I know you grew up in a very Christian household and your dad did music. So just tell me a little bit about that, how you got into music, or what was your first instrument, all that kind of stuff.
I tell people that I was born, I want to say on a Friday. I could be wrong about that, but this is what I tell people. I was born on a Friday, I was put on a piano on Saturday, and I was taken to church on Sunday. That's my life.
Okay.
So that's where I am. Makes me sound really cool, but I'm not. Because I've spent so much more time off the piano and really picked it up just a lot more after high school. But I've been playing my whole life.
Okay. Do you have it your first memories of or remember your first memories of playing piano? Or how old you were or anything? Because I'm assuming these instruments were around at the household.
Yeah. I want to say that my dad had keyboards up all the time, and then even I don't know if they'd be my memories or memories that I'd be making up just from looking at old pictures or of things that my dad has said, but I've just always been around keyboard. Especially my dad had a Fender Rhodes.
Oh, an old one?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
From the 60s?
No. Was it a Mark IV? It's a little bit of a later one, and it's passive. So it's not the coolest one you could get, but it's full 88 keys. And that's what I grew up playing on instead of an actual piano.
Right.
That's kind of influenced me in a big way, as well as some of the albums that he gave me. I had a John Coltrane, I think, and Dave Brubeck, things like that, Stevie Wonder to listen to. And that's pretty much all I listened to, that and the Beatles, other than a bunch of Christian contemporary music. all growing up until probably high school time.
Okay. And something that was very interesting when I met you was you have ADHD or ADD,
Yeah, maybe.
or you were diagnosed with it as a young
Yeah, I was
child.
diagnosed with it. Yeah,
And
and now I'm actually getting tested to see if I'm on the spectrum at all. But that whole thing has kind of been broadened so much. The question is like, eh, with that, does it matter? Like, how much of ADD or whatever I have affects my life negatively? Would be being medicated or whatever help or whatever. But it's helped. I don't know, my ability to focus a raw and like just unbridled amount of energy towards studying music has definitely contributed to my understanding of music.
right, but what was the catalyst that made your parents say, "Hey, this is," because what were you taking, Ritalin or Adderall?
Oh yeah, Adderall. Yeah.
Adderall. Okay, so why did your parents think it was a good idea, or was it just the doctor said, "Oh, your son has this and he can't focus in school," instead of like, "Oh,
Yeah.
this is just a hyperactive kid," or
My mom's
you
a
know?
nurse, and our family has history with addiction. So we had, I think, uh, I don't know exactly how it went down, but the doctor wanted to medicate me. My mom said, "Okay, well, this is how we need to do it." I don't know that too many people have done it this way. I'm not sure, but I was taking Adderall or amphetamine salts, different types of amphetamine salts while I was a kid, for the ADD, and it was, I want to say, every weekday I would take it, and then I wouldn't take it on weekends in order to make sure that I didn't become addicted to it. And I think that worked. I didn't have any kind of a dependency on it. There were several times where, like during the summer, I would go off of it entirely.
Oh, just turn off your phone, please.
Yeah, sorry.
It's all good.
Yeah, there's several times during the summer that I would go off of it entirely, and I didn't have any kind of side effects. However, I mean, like when I was a kid, I didn't know how to communicate to my parents any kind of side effects that I would feel normally. So I think that I was actually kind of overdosed the whole time.
What was your prescription, or how much were you taking?
Oh, I have no idea. I don't remember.
Okay.
But I just remember like not being able to sleep, and it was normal for me to like the feeling of pulling on my hair, or feeling like my teeth were falling out, things like that.
Wow.
And that was like really normal.
I think I remember you telling me in high school that you were taking 80 milligrams a day.
Is that it? Yeah.
80 milligrams a day. That's a pretty high dose.
One time you said that you forgot that you took it, so you doubled it.
And I doubled it, and it was kind of
160
a kind of a really weird day.
Insane.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I remember in high school, it was definitely noticeable when you didn't take it, because you were just a lot more active, a lot more talkative.
Oh yeah, I couldn't control myself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it definitely helped with school, but I still did very poorly with school.
Right.
Mostly because I was more focused on what I wanted to learn and what I wanted to focus on. And I felt the majority of the time that I already knew what was going on with, like, whatever they were going to teach me. So, and I mean, I think most of the time I was right about that. I did know all the stuff, most of the stuff. Like Spanish class, I didn't know anything about that. So that I actually really enjoyed and tried hard in. I didn't know anything about, I don't know, several of the classes, but most of like the math and sciences and whatnot, I didn't care enough to really focus on it. I focused on my own thing, reading my own books and working on my own things. That when they did actually teach something new, I missed it. So, because it's like boring. I don't want to sit there for 30 minutes and just go over things that I've already learned on my own, and I feel like I'm pretty good at. So I missed a lot of things because of that, though. There were times where there'd be like whole chapters that they went over, and I realized, oh, I didn't know any of that. Well, I guess I failed the test.
So we're just like, I guess like ignorant or arrogant about it, or
I was pretty arrogant about it, yeah.
yeah.
And now that I'm taking college classes, I'm getting it a lot more. A lot like, I can see now how much of the classes is stuff that I've studied on my own, and then how much isn't. But thankfully with college, most of the stuff is more specific, so I don't have to worry about that so much. Most of it is stuff I've never heard before.
Okay. Are you currently going to BC, or?
Yeah, I'm going to be graduating this fall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And going back to what I was saying with you growing up in a very Christian household, how do you feel that that's impacted your life? Has it been in a negative way, positive? I mean, you know, I'm assuming positive.
Yeah, actually, super positive. I know a lot of people have a really negative reaction to that. I'm still very much Christian, and very much I love Jesus and follow him the best to my ability, but I don't think I do a very good job of it, to be honest. But no, I don't. I wouldn't even say though that I'm Christian because I grew up in a Christian household. Because my parents are both first generation, kind of. Like my mom's mom is a Christian, but my mom wasn't really raised Christian at all, and so she definitely had a defining moment where she became a Christian and she made the choice for herself. It wasn't something that she was raised on. And then my dad was in the same boat. He was kind of raised like, I don't really understand what they believe, what his parents believe, but there was a definite, when he joined the military, there was a defining moment where he turned to God, and he became Christian in that moment. And they wanted that for me and my brothers. So they made sure, for the most part, I mean, they raised me, taking me to church and all this other stuff, but if I was to ever say, hey, I don't want to go to church anymore, I want to do my own thing, it was, well, then what are you going to do? If you're Buddhist, I don't see you going to the temple, that kind of thing. Or if you're atheist, then you got to say that, that's got to own up to it or whatever and believe it. And I just never, God had too much a hold on me to ever let me go that far, I guess. So I definitely had my own moment where I very specifically, like, I was raised Christian, I always went to church, but then I had my moment where I began my own relationship with God, not something that I was born with.
How old were you at that age?
I was maybe 16, something like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and then it's just been, no, well, I don't know, I went whole hog probably freshman year of high school, like, just, oh man, we need to love everybody and pray for everyone, and anyone who needs food, let's make it for them, and anyone who needs, and it just, yeah, that was like, there was I want to say maybe sophomore year. It's also the year I discovered girls, and that wrecked me.
Okay.
Christianized.
Well, let's go. Yeah, no worries, but let's go, because I met you freshman year of high school, and I remember you being, cause when you're saying, oh, freshman year, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense to me, because that's when you were very much like that,
Yeah.
Everything that you're describing.
I was really forward about it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean, I was a little caught off by it, and I was like, oh, this is weird, but I mean, whatever, it
Yeah.
is what, I don't care, you do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for
But-
sure.
So when you discovered girls in, sophomore year, or started, noticing things, like, how did that affect your relationship with God differently, or how did, just in general,
It's
with
always
life?
been, man, do I love girls more or God? And the answer is always God, but it's like, God, I'm so sorry.
Why is that? Why is your relationship with women so
It's not
difficult?
a relationship with women as much as, like, I don't know. I just want to be. I have a really strong conviction to follow God as much as I can, and to be. I want to, maybe conviction's not the right word. I have so much appreciation for everything He's done in my life, and love for. I don't know, when I see my ideal self in the future, and I look at. Yeah, and I look at that. I think. I don't know. I'm not there, and
What do you mean? Can
where
you
I want to
elaborate?
be, where I want to be is where I want to be is showing people how awesome God is through love, not through forcing my religion on people, but for anyone who is upset or whatever. I want to see the needs that people have and try to fill it as best I can. For one thing, I'm really bad at seeing what people need. I'm really bad at it. The only thing I know for sure is that people need to eat, that people need good sleep, and if there's anything I can do to help with that, I'm going to do that. But and I'll clarify this too, because a lot of people who are Christian have this mentality that they need to do that in order to get to heaven, and I think that that's a little misguided. I want to do that as much as I can, because that's what my love for God looks like. And that's what I think God's love looks like. So I genuinely, earnestly want to do that, and I think I'm not very good at it. And then, with being a teenager, hormones and stuff getting in the way, I think it's just that it got in the way of me wanting to do those things, and it still is like, yeah, I still now I have, work and business and school and all these other things that really get in the way of that, and part of me just wants to do away with all of that. I wouldn't
With your
mind.
relationship with God?
No, the other way around.
Oh, with women.
With my relationship to the world, just
Okay.
to like become a monk, go to another country, and just like do something important as far as that's concerned. But it's relationships with other countries are already so difficult. Like I'd love to build schools if I could do that, but that's not helpful. Most of the time, it's not. Most of the time, there are definitely notable exceptions, but I mean, like I don't really have like the precedent to be able to do that kind of thing yet. So I need to build myself up, know that I'm not going to get distracted by other worldly things or whatever, and then I can do that kind of thing.
I understand your relationship with God and you want to be a better person and have all this fulfillment, which I feel a lot of people want to have, is, feeling, fulfilled, having purpose in life. But, you have a mom and dad that got married, had kids. And I'm like, do you want that for yourself? Because you talk about having, your relationship with women affecting your relationship with God. And I'm just like, can you elaborate on that? Because, I mean, I know you've had a girlfriend, so...
Oh, yeah, totally. No, I went down, just normal path most people would go down, trying to, find a girlfriend or find someone, that kind of fulfills them, I guess, in that way. And I didn't, that wasn't really the right way to go about it. It took me a long time. I also had kind of like a dependency or I'd say an unhealthy attraction to girls. Even though it still is pretty normal, like a lot of guys have that kind of an unhealthy attraction. I mean, I got sucked into a pretty poisonous relationship because of my unhealthy attraction, or even addiction to that girl. So, I mean, I don't want that anymore. I really want to focus on, I do really, really want a family. I want a family very badly. It's one of my biggest goals in my life. But I need to find someone who's going to have that same kind of drive for God as I do. A lot of people are like, well, why do you need that? They think, some people who aren't Christian or aren't as biblically Christian as I am would even say so much that, like, I don't know, you could convert her or whatever and things like that. First of all, I don't think that's right. Yeah, I think someone needs to come to God on their own. That's how I was raised, and that's like, it was a profoundly important part of my life. And for someone to come to God because of their partner is not cool. I mean, it's a great thing for anyone to come to God, but I don't think that's necessarily for the right reasons. And then what happens when you break up? It's not there
Right.
for
It's
themselves.
like them quitting smoking for you or something, and then they come back on it or whatever.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's not. No. You got to do it for you.
Right.
It's your walk. But on top of that,
Can I interject real quick?
Yeah.
On that? Just to say, I feel like just to narrow down what you're saying is, one key factor to seeing if a relationship is going to be successful and be fruitful is having a strong foundation, which is your core values.
Yeah.
So you're saying I want someone who shares these core values. It doesn't matter,
Right.
If this person likes that or this, because that's just what you like or dislike. What really matters is, your core values.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that's what I'm hearing from you.
Yeah. And the thing is, I'm actually just where I'm living in my life right now. I'm not around too many girls who are like that.
Yeah.
And if I am, I'm not like tripping about it. But if I am, they're usually already in a relationship, or they're just in a very different
Space in life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Where they're not quite compatible the way, that I would necessarily want. My family thinks I'm too picky though, and maybe I am.
Picky about having the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with and have children with that can affect their lives as well.
Exactly.
I don't know about that.
Yeah.
But I probably what they're trying to say is, hey, you got to put yourself out there and, meet someone. And that's understandable because I've told other people, hey, you're only getting older. You want to meet other people
Yeah.
and have that experience so you can see, oh, I like this, like that, or experience situations. Like you said you were in a toxic relationship and you learned a lot from that.
Yeah.
And you can also learn from other relationships.
Oh, totally.
You know what I mean? So it's not bad But I understand that you're like, hey, right now I'm focusing on myself, and that's good. Fix yourself as a person before and love yourself before you go and find someone else. I can't argue with that,
For
you
sure.
know. But yeah, very interesting. Do you have anything else to add to that?
I don't know. I don't think so.
Yeah.
I don't know.
So after high school, what were you doing?
I got a job, and my goal was to save
Where
up
at?
money at Subway,
At Subway?
and that didn't last long.
Why's that?
I don't really know why exactly it didn't last long. It could be a number of things. They fired me because something to do with my pants or whatever. But
What?
no, it was really silly. But I don't know if it's because there was I got sick or something. I got what was it, pneumonia? I forgot, when you have an infection in your lungs or whatever. And
Yeah, pneumonia maybe.
they told me to go to the Subway like medical thing or whatever to get that figured out as far as that, because I don't know, because they were always smoking in the back, and like not in the back, but like in the back of the Subway
What?
with like the door open. Yeah. And so I thought, because I've never had pneumonia before, I thought, okay, well, maybe that's it. I'm not around smokers ever. And I just had this like real nasty cough. On top of that, they kept making me work, and I was like, I really think there's a problem here. I don't know what's going on. So I think they maybe saw me as like a liability, even though I was like only doing what they told me to do in the first place. But on top of that, I don't know, they would give me so many. The manager there was horrible. She would never do her job, and then she would always give people write-ups. And she had a very, very special love for giving me write-ups, and when they had no grounds. But at the same time, I wouldn't say I was very good at my job. I mean, I tried really hard, and pretty much no matter what I did, was never like
Didn't
the
work
right
out.
thing. Yeah, but so I'll say that could be at the core of it. It definitely could be. I don't want to be just arrogant about it, because for most of the jobs that I've had, that's always been a consistent issue. And I don't know if it's because of a lack of communication skills, or if or maybe it's just every job I've had bad managers. I'm not sure.
What'd you have? What was your job after that?
I worked at California Keyboards. That one,
Oh God, I know the manager there.
I was
I know the
actually
owner. I don't
wrongfully
like him.
fired there. Yeah, and very wrongfully. My
Fuck
dad,
that place.
my dad left to go for another job that paid more and gave him more opportunities to grow, and so out of spite, the owner of the place fired me. He said that it's a conflict of interest. So if my dad's working for a competitor, and that's my dad, I just don't see that as making very much sense.
No, the guy's a douche. So I mean, like.
Yeah, it was a good enough excuse that I couldn't collect unemployment. So
Wow.
yeah, they fired me for conflict of interest, and I guess for that reason, in that moment, I couldn't collect unemployment. So I should have fought it, but I didn't. I don't know why I didn't. But yeah, and then I worked at the Boys and Girls Club for a good while, and they never fired me, but I was just really bad at that job.
So you quit or just?
Yeah, I left. It got too hairy, man. Some of those kids are crazy. Some of the kids, I don't like the idea of like, even though it's just normal, okay?
Mhm.
Like in a totally normal class of children, especially in an after-school care program. This is different from a regular actual school class. You got a lot of kids, and even if you have pretty good control over the situation, the kids go off to recess, and it's like, some kid will like break an arm or something like that. And even if that never happened in my class, I can't, that kind of,
Responsibility.
it's very stressful. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can't handle that. I know it's totally normal. Kids break their arms all the time.
Mhm.
I just don't want a broken kid under my care. That's
Yeah.
freaky.
You're like, I think I'm a liability, so I'm gonna leave. Yeah.
Everyone else was way better at it than I was. Let me set the
What
record
year was
straight.
this about? Because we graduated 2012. So how far down the line was this?
It's 2020 now. I mean, this was like 2 or 3 years ago.
Okay, so like 2017, let's say.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, I did it for 2 years, and I enjoyed it. I loved teaching the kids, and I loved being able to teach them music and to teach them things and help them with their homework. That was something I think I was pretty good at that. I was not very good at managing a class, but I have now that I have I have the studio and I'm in teaching. My business partner is actually teaching one of my old students guitar, and his younger brother, who was actually he was in my class. His younger brother, I don't even think he was totally fine. The rest of the class caused problems. Caused there were like 2 or 3 kids in the class that caused serious problems, but he came up to me. He's like, "Hey, when I was a kid, I was like in first grade." He's like, "Man, I was really awful in your class. I'm so sorry about that." I'm like, "What? You're like one of the best kids. I mean, thanks for the apology, but man, I mean, there's some other kids that cause problems."
Right.
Ugh.
But they only understand what they see, and they probably
Yeah.
saw themselves like, oh,
Yeah,
I'm
he had some emotional moments, but the kids have that.
right.
Kids have that.
And so when did you start working at Guitar Center? Because I remember you worked at Guitar
That was
Center.
that was
Oh,
actually
that right after?
That was during they all overlapped a little bit. Like I worked at the Boys and Girls Club for a little while I was doing California Keyboards, and then it was a good setup because I worked at California Keyboards like accounting, doing money stuff in the mornings, and then I would do Boys and Girls Club in the afternoon, and then for a while I was doing Guitar Center, doing kind of the same deal, but Guitar Center just offered me more money and ability to grow than Boys and Girls Club, and I was better at it, so there's that. So I just stuck with Guitar Center, and I did that for a while, and that was cool. Management there wasn't very ideal either, but things changed. There's a high turnover rate over there, so things change pretty quickly. But then I got offered to work at a bakery, and I love baking. I love baking for people, and I thought, I love being a musician. I love doing music, but baking could totally be my thing. I really enjoyed it at Subway, even though I wasn't very good at my job at Subway. That should have been a cue not to take this baking job. I was fired within a month. I was
Oh
so
my
bad
gosh.
at it. I cost that poor lady so much money in my mistakes. It was a very high-end bakery. She moved on to a 3 Michelin-starred restaurant in Chicago
Whoa.
or something like that.
Okay.
Yeah. Which is like the highest. She's like Gordon Ramsay level like baker.
She was here in Bakersfield.
Yeah. No, it was amazing. She was here because of her husband or something.
Oh.
And I never thought I could cry eating a cookie, like from eating, not while eating a cookie. That's the perfect time to eat cookies is when you're crying. But when I ate her cookies, it
Oh,
made
you
me
ate
cry.
her cookies.
Yeah. Her what are they called? Macarons.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, oh my gosh. Some of the stuff that she could bake was just unbelievable, and I just made so many mistakes. That was not the job I was born to do. I thought for a moment I could chase my dreams, and that's got to stay a dream.
That's funny. But
Yeah.
so when did you start entering the Bakersfield music scene and seeing all of that and just being a
Yeah.
part of it and the toxicity or positivity or whatever it may be, and just elaborate on that because I've never really been a part of the music scene out here, so
That's so wild to me because there's so much of it. There's obviously not as much as LA or whatever that you're used to at this point, but like no, yeah, and I stay away from any of the toxicity. I don't see too much of that. For the most part, I see people supporting each other and helping and all and just great musicianship. It's really hard to be a part of it because people are so flaky. Flakiness is the number one thing. And then people backstab each other not through like anything actually rude or mean, but through taking gigs for less money.
oh man, that happens everywhere.
It's the worst, man. When I'm like, okay, we got the gig for $300, let's do it. And then some kids come up saying, hey, we'll do it for $100. No, and then someone will undermine them saying, we'll do it for free. I just want to play music.
And yeah,
No.
you can also get less quality musicians. Just
That's it.
just to
The
interject
overall
with that,
culture, yeah.
Just to interject real quickly, because after music school for me, I was playing overseas contracts, and one of the biggest issues we faced was having to deal with countries that were poorer than the U.S. and would underbid us, but they were way crappier musicians.
Right.
You
yeah.
know, and it's like, fuck, you're paying for less quality, less everything, and it's not a chill moment for anybody.
Yeah.
You know, and then it affects everybody. It's a ripple effect, whether the club who's hiring them sees it or not. Because then people will be like, hey, this is some trash. I don't want to deal with this, and then you're getting these less quality musicians, and it gets to that point where it's like just like a clown.
Yeah.
like a circus.
And it does depend. What I see a lot of the time is sometimes people who will underbid a little bit are actually amazing entertainers, but are not as quality musicians. And I'm okay with that to a degree. If someone can just really rile up a crowd and the crowd's just like stoked, even though I don't understand what they're doing and I think it's kind of obnoxious.
I feel that.
I'm embracing it, to be honest. With the cover band that I have, I mean, there's no bands right now. There's no performing right now with COVID or anything like that. But when we pick things back up, I'm going to invest in a TV. I'm going to invest in some extra microphones and whatnot, and we're going to do live karaoke. It's going to be a blast. Which that's such a shtick. That doesn't make me a better musician in any way, but I think entertaining people and facilitating a really fun time, being a master of ceremonies, is the point.
Right.
So,
Fun.
yeah, I mean, and I am a good enough musician that it doesn't matter. I don't think I'm a great musician, but like, my team, the people that I work with are, I mean, very solid as far as being able to get the job done, playing music for a couple hours to entertain people.
And when it comes to you opening your music store, how did that all come about?
Yeah, so it's a studio. It's a lessons studio, and we also have a kind of a venue in the back. We've been doing work. My business partner Silo and I have been doing work for 2 or 3 years now, I want to say. I mean, that's been my only job. I went back to school and I've been doing this now, and we were at the Beacon Studio for a while, and that was
Here in Bakersfield?
Yeah, here in Bakersfield. They'd record music and video, and they do all kinds of other stuff. And we had just one room in that whole building to share between us, and Silo and I did. And it was guitar and keyboard lessons, and that was it. And we were just trying to do more. Came to a point where we needed to we outgrew it. It was too difficult for me to fit anyone into any time slots. I would get new students, and there just wasn't enough time slots for us, because there's only one room. We can't go at the same time. So we started looking around, and we found a perfect place for us, where I can have my own room, he can have his own room, and now we
Do you
have.
want to plug that for a second, just so people can
Absolutely,
know?
yeah. We have a name now. It's called the Backstage Bakersfield, or Backstage Music Lessons. Backstage Bakersfield is our venue. In the back, we have a warehouse where we built a stage. I say we, but really it was all Silo's work. He put up a stage and lights. What's that?
Who's that? The person you just mentioned?
Silo, my business partner, the guitar instructor.
Okay.
Yeah, he's
just
really,
so people know.
Yeah, he's the entrepreneur, financier for pretty much the whole thing. But
So it's just you two right now?
Yeah, well, so now we have the new place. We have another room that we're using for drum lessons. And I made a connection with a vocal instructor, so we have vocal lessons and stuff. And so yeah, we have drums, vocals, guitar, and piano now. We have really great facility, I think. Nice waiting room now, and like our warehouse is really well suited now for recitals. Better than some of the places in town. Actually, I'd say better than most of the places in town. And that's not to throw shade on the other. I know these other places in town are, working hard to.
What makes you different?
What makes us different is that we are, we're only doing lessons. Now there's a couple places in town that, I think only one place now, maybe two other places that do just lessons. But we're also more like contracted laborers, or I guess less like that. We're in the way that we don't have a curriculum that we follow, and we're not employees that get paid a wage or anything like that. We are going to just collectively play or get paid by our students what we charge and whatnot, and we can, with that we are able to teach whatever we want. We are able to teach however we want, and the teachers that we're working with, like me and Silo, are really well grounded in theory. We're really well grounded in jazz and pop and rock and all of that other stuff. It's not just a lot of lessons places, especially ones that focus on piano lessons, are a lot more classically based, which he and I are also in that too. I would say we're less so in that, but that doesn't illegitimize what we're able to do. We have, I want to say we have more freedom to teach what the students want overall in our facility. and also the fact that we have a really nice place to have recitals, and we have camera gear and all that other stuff too. It's suited even for I want to say, I think we're looking to get a startup church to, if anyone is trying to do that, and they're on Sunday mornings and things like that. We have all kinds of use for that warehouse.
So you have a stage to play and maybe potentially have students
There's-
perform.
Yeah, students perform. Students perform together. We have student bands now, and that's mostly Silo too. Most of because he's been doing this a lot longer than I have, so he has other students that have been able to kind of get to the point where they can really play with other musicians. I have other students who are able to do that too, but my students are a bit more reserved. I'll say that. A lot of the parents of my kids don't want necessarily their kids to be. Mostly it's just, for them it's a little
hobby.
bit different. Yeah, a little bit. Yeah.
Just to interject, because a lot of what you guys are doing, it's funny that Bakersfield doesn't have anything like that, because when I was teaching in Lancaster, the place I was teaching at was everything you described. We didn't stick to a curriculum. I
Yeah.
taught the way I wanted to teach, and then we would have maybe quarterly shows where the students could all get together and choose, like, oh, we want to play like this pop song or rock song, and
Right.
then they'd work
Yeah.
together and then perform it as an ensemble, for their, and make it as a show for their parents to see, like, hey, your kids are actually learning something and applying
Right.
it. So to me, it's just funny that's like, hey, this place has been around for years, and it's like, finally Bakersfield has a place like this. Like, that's
Yeah.
like baffling to me.
Not to downplay the other places in town that do something similar. California Keyboards does stuff. I don't think that they're as organized. I don't think all their teachers are organized together. We have a tight group. It's just the four of us, and even then, it's really just Silo and me, and then the drummer and vocal instructor are still pretty new, and they're coming into the mix. But so we have. We can work together a lot more than a lot of other places. And then the other thing is, the other place in town that's dedicated solely to lessons, I believe that they operate differently. I think they can teach what they want, each of the teachers. I've seen some very poor results coming from them. Again, I'm not trying to throw shade. I want to support our music community and whatnot, but
You can always, suggest how they can do better.
yeah, what I'll say is all the teachers that I know that come from there always complain about how the other teachers could do better, or how the system could be better over there. Whereas with Silo and me, it's we're just constantly trying to improve ourselves, and we're a really tight group. So it doesn't. I don't think we have that kind of bureaucracy,
Right.
where we're trying to. I don't know.
I feel like that's the thing with musicians and I feel a lot of people don't understand that. And when you're working for a business where things get stale, is a big part of being musicians. You're always trying to grow, always trying to find that next thing, that next sound that's gonna entertain you. Like people ask me, like, oh, what are you listening to right now? It's like, what I haven't heard yet, because I'm trying to find that new thing that really grabs me, and then I'll be fully involved with that. And so you get bored, so you always want to find things to do. And I can see how teachers working at other places would be like, man, this is really stale, this is stagnant, this is monotonous. Like, I became a musician to keep learning and progressing myself.
Mm-hmm.
You see those 70, 80-year-old musicians that are still, it really inspires me to see them like playing and stuff. Like, I met this one guitarist in Lancaster who used to record for Motown, and he told me, like, man, and this was back in the 60s, like, so a lot of the records that you hear he was actually on, but he was just like, man, I remember, like, in the 80s, I heard this cat, and I had to, like, buy this DVD to figure out what he was doing, and, like, he learned how to tap, and sure enough, the guy he was talking about was Eddie Van Halen,
Oh.
So it's like, hey, even this guy who really had this style down and could play like Wes Montgomery and do all these crazy things, was still entertained and trying to find something new. And he's like, if I hear it and I like it, then I'm stealing it, so he's always trying to find something. And he's, in his late 70s, as far as I know. And to me, that's so inspiring.
Oh yeah, that's a good way to be. Always growing as a musician is good. There's a lot of people who get stale. There's a lot of people in this town that actually really kind of get stale, and I think they get settled into where they want. Where they are.
And that's easy to do. It's
It is-
very easy to settle. And get comfortable.
I hope I never get that way.
Same.
During the quarantine, I've had so much time to practice and learn new things. It's been outstanding. Like you said in one of my posts that I should just pick up the real book and play a song off a random.
Yeah,
page.
because you were asking about reading.
I've already done that.
Right.
I think I responded saying I would need a new one. That's not because mine is so damaged, which it is. I've used it. I've been through it so much, and there's some water damage to it and whatnot. But no, I've been through every page at this point. No, I mean, of course, I could really work on a song and like perfect it. Right now I'm trying to pick up piano music and just read as much music as possible. Maybe even I might just buy like sheet music to a musical or something like that, just because it's not gonna be super challenging, crazy hard stuff that I need to sit and look at. I want to just improve my sight reading and just go for it.
Right.
Which is always really incredible to be able to do as a musician. A lot of people don't ever learn how to read music. One of my favorite things about reading music is the fact that you can play verbatim what someone else is playing, not your interpretation of what someone else is playing, but the exact thing that someone else was playing, someone else wrote. So you can get inside that person's head a lot better, I think. Now,
I think there's some downsides to it too.
oh no, of course there are. I mean, it takes longer to write out the music, so there's a bit more of a method that has to be put in place in order to write it. There are nuances that you might miss, as opposed to a jazz artist just listening to it for hours on end, and listening to the different ways it could be played and all this other stuff. But I mean, I've explored that. I'm going to keep exploring that, of course. Now it's my time to read.
Because I've also heard things like it's like, hey, I'm just, because for example, I know a classical bassist, or classically trained bassist, I should say, who learns like these Charlie Parker solos on bass, or all these crazy lines, and learns them verbatim, but he can't improvise, and that's something I've seen as a downside is, when you learn something by ear, for example, you really make it your own.
Right,
and,
yeah.
and that's something that
Question
a lot
is,
of people.
is it because he only reads, or is it because that's what he's good at? I see a lot of people.
Good question.
I see a lot of people that just aren't creative, but they can be great musicians because they're good at, at playing what someone else played. They're great
Like
at
technique
that.
and stuff.
Yeah, that's a big thing.
And that can go into what is a musician, having that creativity too,
Yeah. To a degree, the composer and the musician are one and the same when it comes to jazz. And it can be the same way, for other genres too. I don't want to limit to just a genre. There's plenty of improvisation in classical music and in other styles. But I mean, to a degree, the jazz players are also composers. So if you're and that's how I would separate it. There's composers and there's musicians. Musician is someone who can play an instrument, and a composer is someone who can write music.
Okay.
And so I think if you can put those two together, then that's great. Some people just can't.
Right. Something that I kind of a beeline, not really, but I got into kind of an argument with a friend who's not a musician, because he's like, oh, I listen to all this music more than you, and I'm like, okay, cool, man. I don't care. Like I'm just listening to what I do. Like you listen to what you like. And he's like a big proponent for metal. And I'm like, yeah, I don't like metal. I find it boring. And he's like, you find it boring? Like, hey, this lyricist wrote these amazing lyrics and blah, blah. I was like, yeah, but, like, I don't find pleasure in listening to it or playing it for, because I'm like, hey, I kind of heard so much, once you've heard all this crazy progressive metal and stuff, it's like, well, now it's just, when you go see them live, it's just like pressing play on the record. And I mean, that's literally what they do. They have like axe effects or
And
something.
you're saying it's exactly the same, yeah.
Right, and for me, I'm like, hey, I'd rather listen to like go see Ariana Grande, where she has like Aaron Spears on drums and all these amazing musicians who are making this brand new arrangement and improvising while playing the song. And to me, that's amazing. And he's, like I love that. Like I've seen that expression and being like, whoa, that inspires me. And then when I play songs, like whether it's a Bruno Mars song like 24 Karat Magic, it's like I'm never playing it the same way. I'm putting different licks, and you definitely know when someone's bored with the song when they're like, I don't have really any licks to play or anything, or they don't feel motivated. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I could agree with that. I think that's not where I thought you were going with it. I wouldn't even say that that's limited necessarily to metal, but in music in general, there's like, there's a degree of. Keep saying degree of. There's. Sorry, there's a lawnmower or whatever. I just totally lost track of what I was saying.
Yeah, no worries. But I just wanted to ask. Just talking about the music and it doesn't just apply to metal, and it applies to other things as
Yeah,
well.
yeah.
Like, I mean, which I understand. You know, like Michael Jackson's like, I want the record played exactly how it is.
Okay, yeah, no. Yeah, what I wanted to bring to the table here. So I think I like to look at how music was before the Beatles. It's kind of like, even though the Beatles weren't necessarily 100% the cause of this, I like to, they're kind of like the
Catalyst.
BC and AD. Yeah, there's the before the Beatles and then after them.
That.
There's, before the Beatles, music was live, and selling the record was to help promote your live performances.
Right.
And live performances always have this kind of sense of improvisation or something different happening,
Right.
or
Well,
whatever, regardless of genre.
Just
Right.
to add something to your thing is, I mean, back in the day, you know, when you had these, let's say, jazz standards that people were recording, you know, you could only record like 2 minutes, so that, you know, you'd have the person sing the melody, and then let's say you put in a guitar solo. The guitar solo would be basically the melody, but then with them putting their own flavor to it, but following the melody because you only had so much time. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And to me, that's still more interesting than some of the stuff you hear today. You know?
Well, yeah. So I think I kind of think improvisation's like is one thing, but with your argument about the live performance versus a recording, and them being the same, I totally agree with you. I think that the Beatles and then at just that time set precedent for there to be a studio recording that is the same every single time, and to distinguish that from a live performance, which should be different. Now, that's not to say though, I'm not all for saying that live performances should always be more improvised or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's so cool. You even brought up 24K Magic, which I think is a really good example, where Bruno Mars actually he did some rendition. What was it? It was at some
like the awards shows,
at the
right?
awards,
He's
yeah.
done like a bunch of different,
He
even
does
on like
some really
That's
cool
What I Like.
versions
He
of it.
puts like a little Latin part in it, and
yes,
you know, like
I love it.
Right, I love it
and
too.
And it's totally prearranged and organized.
Right.
And
right, and his music director wrote it. You know.
Oh,
like,
yeah,
you
there's
know
no
what
way
I
he
mean?
did that. No,
you
yeah.
know, and people are like, man, Bruno Mars is like, bro, there's so many people
No,
behind this
yeah,
shit.
yeah.
You know, y'all don't even know.
Right, but still, yeah, no, but that's the thing that makes it awesome is the fact that it is different.
Right.
And I think it's really cool even to play with the medium. That, like, people often don't see live performance as a medium,
Mm-hmm.
but bringing in anything that can have to do with the audience or the lighting,
Yeah.
or anything along those lines.
And I feel people feel it. Like when you hear, you know, a guitar band in person, for example, just something that simple, it's like, whoa. Like when I heard Jeff Beck live and he bent his guitar string, you know, it was a great show. It was at the Greek Theater, and
Wow.
the Beach Boys were opening for him.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, right. And when I heard him bend, I literally felt it lift me out of my seat.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm like,
There's a different energy.
Yeah.
There's a totally different energy.
For sure,
Yeah.
for sure. And, you know, just his argument was, well, nobody cares about, you know, hearing the musician do that. They just care about seeing Bruno Mars. I'm like, yeah, there's definitely people who are just there to see that. But it's like, I'm sorry, I feel like this is one of those things where you get a disconnect between a musician and someone who's not a musician.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like they will never see it in our eyes, and I feel bad because it's like when I see someone, for example, see a movie that I think is terrible, right, and they enjoy it, and I'm like, wow, I wish I could see it through your eyes so I could enjoy it, because
Right.
I don't want to hate it, I want to enjoy it.
I'll say this. Now I can't speak to any metal bands in particular. One thing I noticed, and I'm not really into pop so much, but because of the cover bands that I've been in, I've had to study it a lot. And
Same here.
Yeah, but I'm embracing what I can, I think, and now I've never seen Justin Timberlake live.
Ooh,
watching
amazing,
watching his
amazing.
live shows, even if the music is exactly the same as the record,
His bass player is on fire.
his dancing and like the way he interacts with the audience there is electric.
Amen.
Just total, like, even if the music's exactly the same, it doesn't matter. Even if it's pre-recorded and he's faking it, which I don't think he is.
No, he's not.
Everything's like totally present.
Yeah. You know, his guitar player, his black guitar player used to play for Prince and stuff, man. Like, you know,
Oh, really?
he basally stole Prince's and Michael Jackson's band and was like, hired them, you know?
Well, yeah, I mean,
Yeah, so
he has
he's
the
got an
freedom to
amazing
do that
band.
because
Yeah,
he's got
yeah,
Max
he's
Martin
rich.
behind him and all that. Yeah, I mean, even like when he touches an audience member's hands, like I get chills.
Yeah, yeah,
Like,
he's
I can't
dope,
even-
man. I love him.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of I like Max Martin and what he does and stuff, but I'm not a fan of that system necessarily. I don't think the music's like that extraordinary, but just that, yeah, he's a great entertainer. Justin Timberlake is.
Yeah, and that's the thing where you get like the perfect combination of the musicality with the entertainment
Right,
and everything. And
yeah.
It's like, whoa, man, like
It
this
all
is
fits
great.
together really well.
You know, and that I really dig. But you know, when you're missing one or the other, it's
Yeah.
it gets stale.
Totally. We could stand to improve all of that, I think, as musicians.
Yeah, 100%.
Focus on that.
Yeah, and like there was a period like from 2006 to like 2010 where you had a lot of live DVDs like Justin Timberlake, Beyonce, all these people that were because kind of Rihanna, like I guess I'd give her credit because I could be wrong, but she kind of let the door in for that neo soul gospel sound to come into music and just make it explode, whether people know it or not, because you have like Jarvis Mosley, who really influenced guitar in that way with that neo soul guitar sound. Like anybody that plays guitar like that stole stuff from him. You know what I mean?
You said Nias Mosley?
Jarvis Mosley.
Jarvis Mosley?
Yeah.
I gotta
Mosley.
listen to his.
Yeah. He's J-Mo. I mean, he like I think he had like a #1 hit with a bunch of people. He's a producer. He's a big heavy cat. And I've seen him live. Like
with what you're saying, I generally blindly, and I'll admit it's blindly. I pretty much blindly give D'Angelo like all the credit.
Oh yeah, D'Angelo. Yeah, man.
And it is a little arrogant. I don't know all the other people who went into it, but
no, that's. But I'm just saying, yeah, I see what you're saying, especially in the '90s and everything. But definitely, I feel like the person who kind of brought it back in like the new age and in a bigger way, like how I said, all these people started dropping these live albums again, which had pretty much gone extinct for a while. Is Rihanna.
Interesting.
That's something to think about. I mean, hey, I could be wrong.
I'd
but
like
yeah,
to look into
D'Angelo.
that. I'd like to look into that.
We're recording outside, so we have some dogs and everything. We're trying to be safe because of COVID and everything.
It's also really nice outside.
It is. It's a nice day out recording here in Bakersfield.
If I'm being honest, this is even kind of a cool shtick. I thought this was your shtick. I thought you were gonna, let's just do them all outside.
I mean, I don't mind it. I mean, hey, man, I don't mind hearing the dog. It's a neighbor's dog. Yeah. But, yeah, man, this is just something I wanted to talk to you about because, he's this person that I'm talking about is so set in their ways when it comes to this stuff about music and stuff. And, oh, no, well, these lyrics. I'm like, dude, I don't care about the lyrics. What are you playing? I mean, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like, when I listen to Rush and the lyrics are so amazing. Yeah.
For me, a song has to be, and this is not something that I made up. This is just accidentally who I am.
Mm-hmm.
But if a song has to be like basically perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Like there can't be anything notably like whack about it that just drives me nuts, and then it can't be so like interesting that I'm only focused on the music. Only then can I even notice that there are lyrics. Like usually like singer-songwriter stuff. If that's like perfect, like Jeff Buckley.
Jeff Buckley is a good
like
example.
Jeff Buckley,
yeah.
I noticed the lyrics because the music's pretty much amazingly perfect, and there isn't so much happening that.
I was gonna say, what's his name? Oh, continue. Sorry for
No,
his name.
yeah, but I mean, it's only then. Even I've seen people say things like, ask the question, like if I don't know, just name a song that you could sing every lyric to right now. I can't think of a single one.
And you know what? When I was going to music school and seeing these amazing musicians, most of them were that way. They're like, I know, like as soon as I hear the song, I know everything. But like me, I always get the lyrics wrong. Even growing up, as a musician, it's like, nah, that never was I like getting the lyrics right or anything. I'd have to look them up.
Obsessed with Rush when I was in high school, and then before then, I listened to them in and out. I knew every single part of every song.
2112 and all that
like
good stuff.
Every single and I even for certain songs I learned to play the bass part, guitar part, and drum part. I learned everything, but didn't even think about learning the lyrics.
I think you and I would be the same in this area where it's like we would know what the song is about before we learn the lyrics.
Right.
Like 2112 is a good example.
Oh yeah. I get a lot of flack for it too because like at the church where I'm playing, they'll call out, all right, we're going to take it from the verse. And I'm like, I don't know what that is. I don't know where the verse is here. Because for me, it's just like I play it the same and I just feel it. For these songs, a lot of the times, it's like the same 4 chords over and over and over again.
I feel that's the same with like odd time signatures. Like, for example, I played a song once that was like 15, 16, and I asked like the bass player, hey, how does this go? It's like, dude, I just sing it in my head and play it, and it comes out right. And I'm like, that's not a bad idea. And then I did that, and it's like, came out perfect. Instead of like trying to think of it like in a mathematical way, sometimes, you know, because something I learned in music school from an amazing, I'm going to mention him because he doesn't teach there anymore, but he definitely had the best class there. His name's Carl Schroeder. He played for like Sarah Vaughan and you know, other people and stuff. But you know, he was saying, learn everything and then forget it and play.
Yeah.
You know, and when I heard that, I was like, that makes sense. You know, because
Very
you don't
true.
want to be thinking. You're trying to express yourself and you know, singing what you play. And a lot of people don't see music as a language. And what you're doing on stage, and that's what I love. Going back to the whole live thing, is these musicians are communicating. You know, the drummer does a lick, and I'm like, oh, I hear you. Let me do this. Or when you're playing a guitar solo, what the keyboard player is playing underneath for comping for me, that might change completely. Like, you know, if he goes somewhere else, that'll completely change where I was going.
Right.
You know, and it's like that kind of stuff. Like, I wouldn't give it up for anything. It's just like one of the most amazing feelings, and you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's you get into there's actually studies about what happens in the brain while musicians are playing together. And there's some really interesting you can see graphs and whatnot of highlighted regions of the brain and how they sync up while people are playing music together. There's a kind of almost like a spiritual
Synchronization
bond between musicians while they're playing together, especially in that sense. If you're just in your own world and you're playing your own thing, I think that's a little different.
Yeah, it's like you're not doing that. It's like, yeah, like a meditation type thing.
And in a way, you can use that too. Like, what's his name? Frank Zappa, who he would record a solo for one song and then just throw that solo on a completely different song. Just trash the other song. He'll write an entire song to have a solo in it, and then cut that solo out and put it on another song.
Yeah, and you know, he was one of the
that's
guys.
to create that complete disconnect.
Yeah, and he was one of those guys that like talked about like, why would you go up and play the same solo that's on the record? You're not a wind-up doll, you know. You're not just a monkey, you know. And that's something I don't like, you know. Like that was something like, oh, go up and play the solo, and like people would like expect you. That's why, to me, playing like rock or metal, it kind of is a turn off, because it's like, you have to play the solo note for note because that's what they expect, or you're gonna, you know, they're gonna be like, man, that was like such an amazing show, but why didn't you play the solo?
You're talking like pop rock,
or like
stuff.
let's say like if you went to see a Dream Theater show and you didn't hear that.
Really, people get like mad about that?
Yeah, they want John Petrucci to play the solo exactly. No,
that's dumb.
You know, show me a Dream Theater video, a live one where he doesn't play the
There's
exact
some
solo.
solos. I say you gotta be choosy. Some solos are so melodic, and like they're
Like
as
Hotel
much.
California maybe is.
Maybe yeah. There's some solos that are just so integral into what actually the song is that I would say in that case, yeah, you should probably play that. Then if you want to add another solo afterwards, you know, it's. But I mean, I don't know. You brought up Rush.
Actually, no.
I think
Dream
Rush is a
Theater
great
does
example.
do it, but in their very early stuff when they were first touring. Now they don't really do it anymore, as far as I know.
Play exactly like the record, or
No. So like I remember they play a song off their first record, or as Dream Theater, not Majesty, which is what they were before, where they played Take the Time off the first album, and there's an end solo, you know, where Petrucci's just going off. The middle solo he plays exactly the same. The end solo he kind of, you know, since he's going off, he kind of adds more stuff or maybe extends it a little longer. So definitely they have that, and they're probably one of the only bands. But most metal bands that are progressive, you know, like Animals as Leaders, Periphery, and stuff, they have it. Everything's so difficult and meticulous that the drummer presses play, and like the effect, they don't even press their pedals. The effects change,
Right,
You know,
yeah.
so it's like they're literally playing the album.
Locked in.
They're
and
locked
stuck.
into the click and stuck. Like there's
no.
no.
I hate that so much.
Same. I'm like,
very
fuck
resistant to that. Yeah.
Yeah, but sorry, what were you gonna say?
I don't know exactly with it. I kind of riffing off of some of the stuff you're saying. There's some really magical moments that can come from not being locked in that way. I played with a band called Mind, Body, and Soul. I don't know if you know them. The leader lives here in town. He's he was the drummer for what are they called? The English Beat. One of the big kind of are they ska? It's kind of like second wave ska groups out of Britain.
I'm not sure.
Around
I'm
the
not
same
too
time as
familiar
the
with them.
Police. But anyways,
But
yeah,
I mean,
he's
I know
a really
Police
cool
and
guy.
stuff,
He
but-
plays this really like 80s funk type stuff.
Okay.
And he is a little overboard with his tech, bringing on
He's got like 9 keyboards.
No, yeah, and like a floppy drive mixer.
Oh, yo, man, this guy, he's
Like,
really in it.
and it's just crazy, the stuff that they have. Well, but we were playing. I mean, there's some stuff you have to play, and we had like the whole place was bumping. We were playing overlooking the beach. I forgot where it was exactly, and we were playing. What were we doing? We were playing My Girl. Like one of the most overplayed songs there
Speaking
is.
of which, I'm 99% sure that the guitarist that I told you about, the Motown guy,
Yeah,
recorded on that song.
he was the guy that did
I'm
the
like
riff.
99% sure because something I noticed when I saw him live and they played My Girl was every song he'd just be freaking shredding all over. As soon as My Girl came on, he played the exact parts note for note, and I
Oh,
was
yeah?
like, man, I know you played for Motown, back in the day.
That'd be
like,
really cool.
I'd never asked him about it, but if
It'd
I
be
ever
cool to
see him
look-
again,
I'm sure you can look it up, right?
because a lot of those guys go uncredited. For example, when I was going to music
Mm.
school, my teacher, one of my teachers, Carl Berhyan, who's one of the biggest studio cats out in Los Angeles, he was talking about like, there's things that went down. I don't even know if I'm supposed to talk about this, but he's like, for example, Whitesnake, that band, very very popular 80s band. They came out in 1989 with their biggest hit album called just Whitesnake, right?
Okay.
And their later albums, they had, they went in and out of guitarists and musicians, like always swapping, besides basically the drummer.
Mhm.
But one of them was known to, get pretty messed up on drugs and whatever it may be, and couldn't play the solos when they were recording in the studios.
Oh.
So they would hire him to go in and record the solos, but not credit him for it.
No credit.
Yeah, they just pay him, and that's how it was back then. Like you remember in the '90s when that one singer got caught for not actually singing on the record. He was just a good-looking dude.
Yeah.
Like a lot of that stuff was going down in the '80s and '70s. Like nobody talks about like Steve Lukather recording all the guitar on Michael Jackson.
Oh wow.
Even though like as musicians we know, but we've kind of hit the peak of the hour. But I just kind of wanted to hit one last topic. I mean, unless you want to add anything to this.
Okay.
But I guess the last topic I just want to talk about was I saw your Facebook post about what was it? The most recent one you just did, how you were trying to give bread to your neighbors.
Oh, this morning. I
Right,
posted
right,
that.
right.
Yeah, it's been so obnoxious.
And it's like it's so funny because I don't think most of the countries like this, but specifically in places like California or New York, high concentrated cities or states, you have like a disconnect with people where there's like a mistrust, and they're like,
A huge
leave me
disconnect.
alone, leave me alone.
I kind of think it is around the country in a lot of places. It
I don't
depends
know.
on where there are cultures specifically that are friendly and
Mhm.
have community, but we have lost so much. I could talk for an hour alone about American community
Hey.
and culture.
Okay, let's just hit on this a little bit because I'd love to have you back on the podcast again. So we can do another hour, but this one I just kind of wanted to get kind of an introduction to who David Garcia is.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Do you want to just leave it there and we can talk about it later?
absolutely.
Okay.
I've
Do you want to
done a
have? Do you
lot
have
of
anything you want to
research
plug?
into
Your Instagram. Do you have a web page for your music store? Do you want to?
Oh
all
man,
that?
I
Just plug
really
it in one more
wish
time.
I could tell you. We have on Facebook. We have a page. I believe. Well, there's the Backstage Bakersfield, which is just the venue and not our lessons. I believe now we do have a page for Backstage Music Lessons. There's another place in the country that has the same name, though, so I'm not sure exactly what happened with that. But we should have a Facebook page now for that. Backstage Music Lessons, and it would be the one in Bakersfield. And then we have my Instagram. I have Dave's Piano Lessons. I'm not too active on that. That's on my personal account. But then I have the same thing on Facebook, Dave's Piano Lessons. And I'll
David's piano lessons or Dave's?
Dave's
Piano Lessons.
It's a little
Okay.
bit more chill
Okay.
than David. Yeah. Yeah. That's what I got going.
Cool. Well, thank you very much for being on, David. I appreciate you, bro.
Yeah. You too, man.
All right, man. Peace out. That's been another episode of the DP Podcast. Thank you very much for listening.